Well, got another beautiful morning in paradise. Ah, getting close to 1,000 videos. This will be 999. The last one was actually 998. So what I've been doing lately is kind of revisiting the past. Before I had video cameras, I was taking lots and lots of still pictures. So I thought maybe I might put together a number of stills and show you a little bit about some of the past history of what I've done in this business. Okay, I'd like to interject at this moment and state that I chose this career because I'm an adrenaline junkie. I need to have a life of adventure. And tree work has been a life of adventure for me. I have no regrets. So for video number 1,000, which by the way is in the can, to use an old filmmaker's term, ready to be uploaded, video number 1,000 is about where it all started. Why did I decide? What made me decide to become an arborist, become a tree worker first? So stay tuned. And it was actually kind of fun. I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of old photographs, printed photographs, not digital photographs. And boy, I tell you, they bring back some memories. It's like I'm going through and I forgot all about that job. That was really hairy. Oh, I forgot about that guy. Oh, yeah. Oh, I had a different truck. It's kind of fun. I mean, this is 48 years in business for me. And, bringing back the old photos is kind of fun. And so come along. I'm going to share some of these with you. Going way back. Paul, Mark, and Charlie. This is a big redwood tree that fell down. We actually chopped it all up and hauled the whole thing away. Oh, this is a good one. Mike Majors. Mike worked for me for a while, and he was one of the best of the best. I mean, he was a hot dogger. He wasn't afraid of doing anything. We had this big redwood, and it was actually leaning towards the house. And we opted to go up there and blow out the top in one piece. That was a bit of a challenge. But then all of a sudden, Mike says, "Grab your camera." So I don't have any idea what the heck he's doing up there. And next thing I know, he's showing off. You'll see in just a minute here. This guy's a wild man. He is tied in, but he was also just incredibly strong, had great balance. What I didn't show you here is he went all the way up to a full handstand. Mike Majors, legend. He was something else. I have no idea what happened to him. So we set up a big pad of brush because we wanted to salvage the log. And you'll see that, there, look at that, how close that is to the building. It's actually crushing the rain gutter. So it was a pretty significant redwood tree. We flopped it onto that big pile of brush to keep it from shattering. Oh, sad story, sad story. I rebuilt this truck. I spent a lot of money getting the engine rebuilt. They delivered it back to my yard, and then they decided that they wanted to do the carburetor. I went out and started it up. They didn't tell me. So it just pumped fuel all over the place. This was a gas engine. I lost that truck. Here's Mike again. This was way back in the early 80s. This was a big removal that we had. We had the biggest crane that the crane company had because it was quite a distance here. And Mike is actually up in the tree. This is about a 4-foot diameter section, and he is cutting with an 090 with a 6-foot bar. Unbelievable guy. Now let's get back to regular tree work. A few years ago, we had this deodar cedar to prune, and it's an unusual tree. It's a multi-trunk tree. It's got so many individual trunks that go up, but it's all coming off the same root system. And it just so happened that this trunk had a severe wound down far. And we thought, if we remove this, that might take part of the balance of the tree out. So instead of taking it out, I opted to put in a cable instead. And this is what happened. I wanted to show you this. This cable right here held this tight. And what I didn't anticipate, in the wind, this tree would blow it over. This was a lot lighter than this side, so this one would move, and it would go up and bend and straighten, and bend and straighten. And over the course of about 2 or 3 years, it weakened the metal enough to cause metal fatigue, and it broke. It surprised me. So I followed it up with a piece of webbing, and I'm going to add an additional piece of webbing today, but I kept it kind of slack so this can move a little bit, so it can stretch over. And the thing is that the webbing won't get any metal fatigue, but on the negative side, the webbing has kind of a lifespan to it in the weather. So this webbing's been up here about 4 years now, so we're out doing the job again, and I opted to add an additional piece of webbing. I'll leave that one as well. I'll just tie a nice piece of some brand new tubular webbing that has a breaking strength of over 5,000 pounds. And this will have to be looked at every 3 or 4 years. Interesting to think about, though. I didn't anticipate it bending the cable and straightening it out, over such a long time. So that's the solution I came up with. I just backed it up. I didn't even take the old one off. But this is the reason why. And if you see over here, you can see where there was a limb that was taken off. And you can see by all the tissue that's grown up around how long ago it was that we took that off. But that limb was rubbing on this so bad. And every time this moved, it rubbed all the way up to here. And it was rubbing all the way through. And when we first identified this, there wasn't any active tissue growing in here to speak of. So we recognized this as a weakness, but I don't know, maybe we should have taken it out, but it seemed like part of the balance of the tree. There was so much foliage in there that we opted to save it instead. Plus, it kind of maintains the integrity of this very unique collection of trunks. So, right decision, wrong decision. Well, it was the decision that I made at the time. Sometimes you just got to go with it. You know, so many of my jobs are condo complexes or townhouse associations where they put all these buildings right next to each other. Then the landscape designers are told to make it look really nice and lived in, so they come in and they plant all these trees that grow much too large for their location. In the first few years, they look pretty good. But you hit 8 or 10 years and they start getting a little bit overwhelming. So a lot of times, the work that we are now required to do is to keep these trees contained. That's not the best idea for the tree. Okay. Uncomfortable job for me right now, because this is one of 2 Chinese elms I've been taking care of for over 30 years. And up until last year, I have been keeping these trees light on the ends but not topping them. So they were much wider, but they had the very natural weeping Chinese elm shape. Unfortunately, last year he hired somebody else, and whoever got in here topped the tree all the way around. Basically, by topping the tree, this is no longer a tree, it's just a big bush. So I'm kind of stuck now. What do I do? You know, if they just let it go, it's going to be just this big hairy monster. So I'm going to try to contain it more like a bush. And ironically, when I'm all done, it's going to look really nice. It's going to look very symmetrical. I'm going to go up to each of these ends and take a little bit of weight out, but bring all those long hairs down and keep it more in symmetry. So it's going to take on a real nice appearance. But the integrity of the branch work has permanently been destroyed. So what took me 30 years of pruning this tree every 2 or 3 years, now we've got a tree that, to keep it looking good, it's going to have to be pruned every year. I'm sorry, this really bothers me. So I've started on this side, and this tree I can use the bucket on. So he wants to keep this tree compact. He wants it to be less of a monster. And I'm sure that's what he told the tree service last year. He said it's too big. And I hear that a lot. People say, my tree is too big, I want it smaller. And actually that's what he kept saying to me. For many years, he says, can you make it smaller? Can you make it smaller? And I'd been working really hard to create a nice balanced framework, nice structure, so it was a big weeping tree. This tree was probably 25% wider than it is right now. So the topping cuts were not ultra severe. They were all, 2 and 3 inch cuts all the way around, but it looked like hell. I remember driving by last year and I thought, oh my God, what happened? All those years of work of developing a framework that could sustain itself now means we've got nothing but a big bush. And we've got the one in the backyard that was done exactly the same way. You can see where it was just chop, 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 chop. And if he doesn't keep up on it, this thing is just going to be a mop of a tree. It's just, instead of having nice, long, beautiful branches that you can see through and see the integrity of the structure, now it is just a big, big bush. Unfortunately, we can't use the bucket on this one, and it's much, much harder to get out there and do all the little shaping cuts, so it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to prune each of these trees a little bit differently. So this was a big sucker mess at the bottom here, so I have him clean out all the suckers here. Hey, good job, Jorge. It's looking good. But it's never going to be the same. The tree is always going to be more of a problem now, and the integrity of a natural structure has been destroyed. Because this tree had never been topped. It had never been cut back. And you've also got this redwood in the backyard. It's going to be quite the monster. And unfortunately, you can see the upper canopy is turning brown. That could be drought related, or it could be susceptible to the trunk canker disease that's taking out the redwood trees. I'd have to go up there and look at it closer to see. But he asked me if we could take it out. So he's going to put in a permit application and see if we can get this out of here. So I said, sure, yeah, we could do it if you get the permit. But I wanted you to take a look at this location. We've got all these hedges over here that he doesn't really want to destroy. This plant can come out, which would give me one working area right here. But look at how tight this is. From there to there, that's about, probably 6 feet across or more. But we've got 2 other yards to work with. And it is a massive big tree. On the positive side, there's no wires back here, thank God. I hate working around hot wires, or even telephone wires, things that get in the way. But there's a lot of stuff over here we have to protect. These Italian cypress look like hell because they've been shadowed over. Getting everything down without tearing everything up is going to be quite the challenge. Look at that, it's right up next to the fence. Now, how much to bid on taking out this monster from this location in the backyard? Too far to get a crane in here, so everything's got to be pieced down. One chunk at a time. We've got to create a big area over here to drop all the wood. One piece at a time. And then we got to wheelbarrow them out, or dolly them out. So this is what happens when you top the tree off. It becomes a massive multitude of sprouts. And every one of these sprouts is going to get really long and really heavy. So ultimately, if this thing doesn't get maintained consistently, then the weight overwhelms the branches because there's just such a multitude of new growth that comes onto these ends. There's like big, I don't know what you'd call them, like big tufts of growth. So I'm kind of irritated with this whole thing. I'll do the best job I can. I really don't want to say anything to clients, but what a mess. I'm going to leave some of this inside foliage. I'll clean out the base area here so you can see the trunk and clean out everything down low. Everybody likes things tidy. So now I've got a homeowner tree that we're trying to keep it contained because of what happened to it. It got topped all the way around. It's just going to be a big bush of a tree. Like I said, it's no longer a tree in my mind, it's now a big bush. The structural integrity of the framework of the branches has been permanently destroyed, and now it's just going to be a mass of foliage. Now a lot of people look at that and say, wow, that's exactly what I want. That's what I really like. But you have to take into consideration the long-term effects of hard pruning a tree, where you get all these little decay pockets, you get all these little spots that start going bad. So you have to ask yourself, are you trimming the tree for what the client tells you they want you to do, or are you pruning the tree for what is right for the tree? Now, sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's the other way. Sometimes you don't have an option because of the poor placement of the trees. Personally, I love taking care of a tree and taking care of it correctly and doing exactly what the tree needs. When I have a client that says, let it grow, let it fill in, let it be a beautiful, big, massive tree. The species, they get huge. You've seen some of my previous videos of Chinese elms that are just so widespreading. I did one just a couple weeks ago. It was self-destructing because it had been stripped out and stripped out and stripped out. So that's a completely different type of an improper pruning. So I guess at the end of the day, it is what it is. I have to take each situation as the hand is dealt to me. So I do what I can do. So this is what it looks like when I finish it up. And you can see it looks pretty good, but it's really not the right way to prune the tree. But it is what it is. I'm sure the guy's going to be really happy with it. I still got to clean out some of the stuff down low and clean out the inside a little bit. And I do see one dead branch up there. But that's it, Chinese elm. And Jorge's working on the one in the backyard. That one's going to be a little bit thicker than this one. And he wants to cut down that big redwood back there. Oh boy, right next door to the job we're doing, there's this big Chinese pistache. And you can see where a limb broke out. And this limb, I don't know why it's still there. That's definitely going to break. And that limb is too heavy. This tree is a disaster. And there's nothing over on this side. Oh, they took off a big limb over here and one down low. And one over there. Okay. You know, one of the things I really love about tree work is it's a constant adventure. Every day it's something unique. Sometimes they're really complicated, sometimes they're not too bad. But I really wanted to live a life of stories and adventure and memories. A lot of my friends that have mundane jobs working in an office, you know, they couldn't tell you what they did last week, they couldn't tell you what they did last year, they couldn't tell you what they did 20 years ago, but I have a lifetime of adventures. So